Hey, welcome to the podcast, Haley.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to be here too. I'm feeling really excited. Uh, I'm just going to begin with a brief meditation, 5 to 10 minutes, just guided. Does that sound good for you?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I welcome you to get into a comfortable position, sitting, standing, whatever feels right. And then let's begin by taking 3 breaths in together, breathing in and out. In and out. In and out. Continuing to breathe at your own pace and allowing your awareness to just rest somewhere in that process of breathing, whether it's the tip of your nose and the feeling of the air, or the flow of air, the movement of your body as it courses from your nose down your throat to your belly. And as different thoughts and ideas come up, just let them go for right now. Allowing our awareness to just remain where it is. And then let's start to explore the sensations of our nose, starting with the tip. And just notice what it feels like to have a nose. The space between the nose and the feeling of the air. And as you do that, just allow yourself to relax deeper into this moment. And then going to the back of our nose on the right side, tracing our way there. See if we can feel our way and see and experience where our nose ends and our cheek begins. And then from the top of our cheek, just start to explore that right cheek. Making our way down to the right side of our lip. Allowing the muscles there to relax. And just noticing any feeling or memory that comes up, but letting it just pass through. From the right side of our lip, let's slowly traverse to the left side. And basically a reversal of what was before. Go from the left side of our lips toward the top of our cheek. Just exploring that area. Still being mindful of the breathing at the same time. And then to the connection with the left side of the nose. And then following up to between the eyebrows and to the forehead. And just imagine giving yourself a little massage to your forehead or temples or wherever it feels like a massage would be nice right now. And then I'd like you to pick one of the parts that we have just explored and add some appreciation to it internally. How does this part enrich your life? And just take a minute to connect to that and hold that thought to yourself. And if the opposite sort of thoughts, frustration comes up about that, just spend a few seconds listening to it like, a friend telling you about a bad day, and then continue. And I want to end with one final breath together. Breathing in and out. And just coming back to this moment when it feels right. Nice. I'd love to open it up with a check-in with how we're feeling, anything that came up or anything that wants to be uttered at the moment.
I need to do this before I have surgery tomorrow because I'm so nervous about it. So, I mean, that was really calming, and I'm getting a little anxious about tomorrow. So, and then the after effects, right? Because you have surgery and they cut into you and do all these things, and then anyway, then there's some pain after that. I've heard, haven't had it before.
I imagine it'd be pretty scary, and I don't know how long the pain would last. Or
Well, it's my abdomen, so I'm having it put back together and some hernias repaired from having all those children. So it's my core. So that will render me pretty much immobile for a while it heals. But it seems like meditating, yeah, it just puts me back on the ground so I'm not so anxious.
definitely, I think it'd be a great practice to do tonight, before, after, all sorts, especially in moments of pain. In moments of pain, it's easy to let the mind wander and think about it. How long will it leave you immobile?
I don't know because I've never had surgery. So, I mean, if I want it to heal and not have to have it redone, I should probably lay low for at least a month. So, I don't sit still.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a bit of a challenge. What do you think is gonna be the hardest part about we were talking earlier about getting tea, and so you got your tea from, just your property, grabbing I imagine you going in and just ripping some or snipping some weeds and making your tea, so I bet you've got some lovely land that you love traversing.
I do. Yeah. But I should be healed before all of that sprouts up again. So that's the good news.
Oh, nice. Has it been What's the weather like where you are?
It was
It's
-10 this morning.
wow.
That's been rough. But that's okay. This is the time to do it because I won't be tempted to go outside and run around too much.
Some people have told me winter is for rest and recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
So perhaps the perfect time for a procedure like that.
But I like to be in control. And I think it sounds like meditating is just about letting go, right? And trusting. So,
I think there's a grounding aspect of meditation that I find very beneficial, that it if I'm worried about something, it takes this anxiety, fear, whatever, and perpetuates it. It really benefit me. And so just to be able to like be grounded is very soothing, because it's that thought, and that thought often feels like I'm helping myself. What will I do? How will I solve this problem? But like the whole part of it is it's based off this anxious part of me.
yep. It's like sitting in a rocking chair, right? It doesn't get you anywhere. I guess I've heard that worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair, you're just going back and forth and driving yourself crazy, really.
Yeah. I'm gonna save my check-in, and I'm feeling good, and I'm excited to be here and interested in hearing more about your journey. And we talked a little about that. So I'm excited, I guess, feeling reasonably calm. What one question I'd like to start us off as is like, what brings you to the podcast? And I'll leave that as open ended as you'd like, answering in whatever way feels good for you.
Well, it's called Empathease, and I've always been a person who can feel what others are feeling, which is, I think, the definition of empathy. And then, as you know, I drive the Amish for a living, and I'm writing full time right now, and I write about them, and I like to share with the world wisdom that I've learned from the Amish, and they have something that they live by, and it's instead of putting others in their place, put yourself in their place. So I feel like that applies to the message you're sharing with the world.
So yeah, and that's a lot what I'm excited about. Like, so let me try to reiterate the Amish motto or saying, instead of putting others in their place, put yourself in their place. What do you mean by that? And maybe you could give me an example.
Well, okay, now I'll quote Stephen Covey: seek first to understand,
Yeah.
right? Before you judge and you act.
So I understand people. And so, like, I'm trying to think of like examples in the Amish community. So going back to our like tea example, let's say our neighbor came over and swiped up all our delicious herbal tea weeds. The Amish would be like, instead of just immediately going and being angry at them, being like, why did they do that? And so would that involve just a mental exercise or just talking to them or
That's just how they live. They would figure, well, they must have needed it. So, and they feel like everything they have is a gift from God. So if somebody needed it, then they don't typically worry about it.
so a lot of acceptance,
Right.
like this, they're really believing, well, there's a reason for it, and then just adjusting.
That's what they do. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It makes me curious about, well, I feel curious then about your experience and how that in that community and how that may lead to different behaviors if people sort of feel more willing to take and utilize things and how that or you to do the same and how that's impacted, changed your life or brought up frustrations, curiosities, whatever.
Typically they don't do it, but if somebody does it to them, they will just let it be. They feel like justice is God's and that what can they do? So they let it be. And they try to understand why somebody would do something like that. And they go on.
So the simple example I gave was with, I guess you could call it like theft, and it might
Mhm.
not even be called in that. But what happens when it's something harder to forgive?
I haven't seen a lot of theft within the communities. They're the most forgiving people I've ever seen. There's something freeing in that. And I think that brings them peace in their lives, more peace than the rest of us have who have a hard time forgiving and understanding.
Definitely. But like the word shame comes to mind, and like just thinking of our ability to accept our and forgive ourselves and how that's wrapped around our culture based off of how society perceives us. And I'd be curious about how having a culture like that changes one's self image.
Everyone I've met seems very comfortable in their own skin, unless, of course, they want to leave the Amish. Then they're a little bit off. But they're the most peaceful people I've met, peaceful with themselves and with their community and with the world around them.
Nice. So my mind feels like two directions of going. One is, I know you mentioned wanting to share things about the Amish, so like exploring that, and then the other is really like what, what and why you're there, and so I'd open it if either of them sounds good to explore it.
Why am I where?
So you're in Amish community now, is
Mhm.
that right?
Yeah.
So and you weren't always that way. You came to that area for a reason. So just exploring like, well, what brought about that change for you?
Well, the reason we we came to Amish country is because we were living in my parents' basement and my husband was unemployed and we didn't have a house and somebody offered to give us a house out here. And we just needed a change in environment because we were not doing well in Oregon. So that's what brought us here. And I don't know if it was a God thing or I don't know. That's why we're here, though, ultimately, because we were broke and homeless in Portland and needed a change.
So difficult times really forced a significant change. And then, like, almost magically, someone had a great opportunity for you. And, like, did you know this person? How did you connect with them?
So I was on a forum. I don't even know if those exist anymore back in the day. And it was
Yeah.
an LDS, a Mormon themed forum. And I was active on that because of another really hard circumstance that happened. And this man just said, I just feel like I feel inspired to crowd fundraise for a house in rural Missouri. And if this is something you feel you need, reach out to me. And so I reached out to him and he's like, okay, we'll buy the house for you. So I didn't know him then. I know him now. He's a good friend now. So
I think that's really magical and a leap of faith. I think if anyone said that to me in modern times, I would have a hard time believing it. I would be hesitant to trust it, um, to pack my things up. But of course, when you don't have a choice, you're like, I'd probably like, well, might as well.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of put ourselves in a situation where we're forced to succeed. Right. We needed that jolt in our life.
And so you also mentioned like this might not have been your wording, like whether it was God's hand or not.
I don't know. I feel like it was, at least I feel like I'm supposed to be here but, and have a purpose.
And it seems like you found a purpose in the sense of your writing about your experience.
I hope it touches hearts and brings more peace into the world and more understanding and a little bit of humor.
So yeah, tell me a bit more about what you're writing.
So I'm writing a series of books called Tales of an Amish Taxi Driver, and I've got the first two out. And I started writing it because my friends and family back home, when I visited back home after being out here for a couple of years, they asked me all about the Amish. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So people are curious. So I just started writing my stories down.
So these are all real.
Yeah, they're all true.
Okay. Um, are we allowed to hear any spoilers? Any ones that you want to share?
Well, I will tell you when I first met the Amish, because in Oregon there are no Amish. There used to be an Amish community in, I believe it was McMinnville, close to Hood River. And there's even an Amish graveyard still there and homes that the Amish lived in, but they haven't been there for a long time. But I thought that the Amish were better than us, lived a better life closer to God. But I learned through driving them and getting to know them and staying in their homes and being with them for days on end and living in their community that they're human just like the rest of us. And they have the same struggles just like the rest of us and temptations. And that was my biggest epiphany. And one thing that I had, because I didn't know anything, and what you see on TV is not real, just by the way. But I didn't think that the Amish could ever look in a mirror. And I had hired the Amish to work on the house that we had been given. And in my living room, I have this big mirror on the wall. And I was like freaking out because these two Amish guys are going in my house and there's a mirror right there. And I didn't think that they had ever seen themselves or what they looked like. I mean, I didn't know. I honestly believe the Amish had never seen what they looked like. And so I was mortified. And I was driving them back home and I said, did that mirror in my house offend you? And they're like, no. I said, have you ever seen what you look like? And they're like, yeah, we've seen what we look like. But most Amish homes, they might have a teeny tiny mirror and they might use it for shaving, but they don't look at themselves in the mirror. Like they wouldn't put their clothes on and check themselves out in the mirror. They feel like that's very vain. So that was a major misconception I had about the Amish.
So the
Was that,
not having a mirror is related to vanity, like
oh
them,
yeah,
and like they just. I don't know that much about Amish culture and what they try to avoid and I guess why.
they want to avoid anything that would be considered vain and looking at yourself and admiring yourself in the mirror and doing all those things like most of us do would be considered vain to them. And they feel like vanity is a quick ticket to hell.
Yeah, I start to think, well, what is the line between like vanity and like reasonable appearance? So, like, if they meet you and a new person, like, should do they part their hair, try to make it look good when they go out? Like, if they're covered in mud, are they just like, well, that's the way it is? Do they try to be presentable, or is that just
They want to be presentable, like the girls wear their caps and the women wear their caps and their bonnets and the men have their hats and they wear, the simple clothing. In most communities, like for example, women don't shave their legs, or if they have hair, and I've seen a lot of women with hair as they get older in different places on their face, they can't touch it. So I don't think they're vain, but they do like to keep a neat appearance, right? But that's about as far as it goes. Oh, Nellie, where did you go? Oh, there you are. My computer disappeared. Not as far as it goes.
So, as someone from a different culture, when you go there, and I'm assuming that you had a different relationship with vanity, that you look in the mirror, try to keep up appearances. When you do that uh, in the presence of the Amish, how do they react?
I
Or
don't do
how
that in the presence of.
you kind of adhere to what they do?
I'm not a person who always looks in the mirror, so I don't know.
But like on a hot summer day, you may have revealing clothing that show your legs. I don't know if you
I
shave your
might.
legs or
Yeah, no,
not.
I do. I wear shorts.
And then they look over and they're like, "What's going on over there?"
I've been told to put some more clothes on by them. I mean, I keep covered, but yeah, they had a few comments. But if they hire an English driver, right, I'm not going to wear a dress and dress like it's winter in the summer. So,
So sometimes they get offended and ask you to change, change your appearance.
well, it's the ones that I've known for a long time and they like to tease me. Sometimes they kind of mean it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I stay modest, but not according to them, right? Modesty, according to them, is down to the elbows, women down to the mid calf, with their long stockings on. It's pretty much covered.
So is there like some sort of requirement based like to live in that house that you have to adhere to certain policies, or are they just like you? But we may we may request every day for you to be otherwise.
Oh, if I'm staying in their house, I make sure I'm reasonably covered. Like I won't wear a tank top, but they know that English people are going to dress different.
Yeah.
That's just part of what they accept. And they like me to stay in their house as a driver. Like if we go to Wisconsin for 3 days, they would rather have me stay in an Amish home because it saves them a hotel bill. So they kind of give and take a little bit, right? Okay, we'll let her wear her shorts. We're saving, $200. So,
I'm wondering about like your rides and what a normal ride is, like very strange experiences. People are curious or anything that just like stands out to you. I guess that goes back to like the content of your book as well.
no, you're fine. I have so many stories, I can't possibly put them all in books. Well, so in the Amish world, women are considered subpar. Men rule the roost, and a lot of times the women are quiet. Like when I get calls, it's the men that call me 90% of the time. So I was new at driving and I had a van load of men, and I was new to Missouri too, right? And I had a van load of men that wanted to go to goat cheese meeting. A lot of Amish raise goats and they sell it to cheesemakers. So we were going to this goat cheese meeting, and it's me and a bunch of men. And they wanted to get to a town called Jamesport. And they're like, you know how to get to Jamesport? I'm like, yes. They're like, well, um, they didn't believe me. So they decided that they were going to I'm a woman. So they decided they were going to go their own way to Jamesport. Well, we almost ended up in Kansas City. And I kept saying,
Meaning they
like,
had to direct you.
they were directing me, and I'm like, okay, well, they're paying for it. I know the way, but if they want me to go another way, that's
Are
their
you, are
deal.
you permitted to use like a GPS with your phone?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, no, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I know the way to Jamesport. I don't need a GPS.
Yeah.
But they were insistent, and we were almost to Kansas City, and I kept saying, you probably need to turn around, and they would not listen to me. They're like, no, we know where we're going. And then there was a poor guy in the back, Joseph, and he was getting really car sick. And so they're like, quick, you got to pull over right now. So I pulled over on the shoulder of the freeway, and out tumbles this poor guy. He's green with sickness, and he just barfs all over the road, barfs all over himself. And then he gets up in the front seat with me, and he's like, okay, we'll go the way you say. Like, my gosh, you guys. So they were late to their meeting. And then this poor guy had barf all over him, and he had to live through the whole meeting like that. They're
Wow.
silly. They're just silly.
Amazing that it took some barfing change their opinion.
And I was glad I had essential oils in my van. I always carrying them. So I was dousing him in essential oils so he wouldn't smell bad. And I was sticking essential oils up my nose, because it's hard to smell that.
Right next to you for I don't know how
Yeah, he
long
was right
that
next to me.
drive
Oh, it
was,
was just
but
another hour. It's not far away. Yeah.
I would have kept the window down on that drive.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough, but you learn to adapt to different smells as a driver, I guess.
And so, like, on the way back, was there any communication of like, we realize we may have been wrong and we appreciate you for your knowledge, or was it just like this is this is
No, it was I would and I said, "I'm getting you home my way," and then we got back and they're like, "So, we don't have to pay you for all those extra miles, do we?" I'm like, "It was your fault. Yes, you have to pay for those extra miles, of course."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Surcharge for going your way too.
I mean, it was their fault. If it was my fault, of course, I would have taken care of that. I wouldn't make them
Yeah.
pay. Yeah.
And I think like sometimes like with business accidents happen, you don't always choose the best path, and that's part of driving. Unless it's like, well, I went the other direction for 5 hours.
That's happened, not to me, but yeah, to other drivers, they've had their own mind. Yeah.
So yeah, I imagine like that. That's a big change to have difference in how at least men see you. And I don't know your relationship with women are then as well. If like if all yeah, like what do women think of this when you tell them? Are do you into this? Are they just like I wish a man would see me for who I am and my abilities?
The women kind of most Amish drivers are honestly older men who don't have a lot to do. And the women kind of wonder what I'm doing driving if I have 6 children, especially, but what I'm doing driving as a woman, because in their world, their job is in the home. And I wasn't able to do that because of the dynamics I told you about that brought us out here, right? Husband not providing, someone had to do something. So I did, but the women just do not understand that at all. And they do not like the way that I dress either because it's different from them.
Yeah. Is it hard to make friends then?
After a while, it was easier, but at first they're reserved and they're very cautious,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
So you're working to provide yourself, and then who's watching the kids at home during the day?
So, well, it's almost been 10 years now. I've got grown children now. When we moved here, my oldest was, I want to say, how old was she? I guess she was 14 or 15 when we moved here. So I paid the older ones to watch the younger ones. I mean, I had a husband and I mean, we're since divorced, but he was at home too. But I would pay my children to kind of pitch in and do the things that I did, which gave them an opportunity to have responsibility and to learn to work and earn money too when they were younger. And I took my younger children on trips, a lot of trips.
Yeah.
With my van, I can take 1 or 2 kids if I want, and I did.
I was imagining like a small car packed with six kids, and then
No,
who you're showing as well.
no, a big van with maybe one of my kids. There was usually room for one of them. And the Amish got used to me bringing a child, and it was usually my daughter or my son, and they would become friends with the Amish children, and they had good experiences.
Nice. Were they like soaking up the culture and the values?
My boy, 15 now, but when he was a little boy, he's like, I want to be Amish. And when we would stay at the Amish homes, he would play with the little Amish boys and he would wear a hat, and
Yeah.
he would go out and milk the cows with them and do their chores and ride their ponies. He had a blast.
And is he still like that? Like,
Oh,
is he,
no. No, 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 no. He's like, how did I ever think that? Yeah,
I've
no.
changed my ways, mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So same thing with my daughter. My daughter actually understood the language. She's 12 now, but I think she lost it. But when she was younger, she definitely understood what was going on because she was only 3 when we started.
So you mentioned divorce. Is divorce a thing for the Amish?
No,
So,
not under any circumstances. Never.
so, so like they know that you've are I guess I have a multi-part question. Is like when they know that you're divorced, they and then the two parts of that is like, do they consider like you've done some wrong, or does it go back to the policy like, well, there's probably a reason for that? And then I guess the other part is like, do you no longer become like an eligible romantic partner because you've been divorced for them.
Well, I'm remarried, and I Amish when I was getting divorced, and the Amish gossip and taxi drivers gossip. So there was a lot of true information and misinformation going around, and a lot of gossip about me during that time. And I remember, and I wrote this story in my book, but I was driving a truckload of men. I had my pickup truck, and we had a big trailer, and we were going to Kansas City. And the guy, his name was Jonah, and I think he was a bishop, if I recall right. He was at least an elder in the church. And so he starts nosing around, asking me all these personal questions, and I'm just cringing. And I'm like, I don't need to talk to you about this. And he's like, well, my wife and I have been married for 30 years, and you just have to love. That's all it takes is just love. And then he dropped it. But I was just screaming inside, like, this is not part of my job, is my personal life is not their business. But that was his opinion. And so he gave it to me.
Yeah. That like I wonder what the hardest part of that is because like to me it seems like one of a couple things like just wanting his beliefs to be shared like you can't divorce and then also just like well I've been like I have this experience and we've had our ups and downs and I want like it's possible to stick through it but that's what comes to me and like like what is difficult about hearing that for you?
Well,
What was difficult?
it's heartbreaking because being raised Mormon, and I'm still active Mormon, we're taught that divorce is a very, very, very bad as well. And I felt like I failed because I definitely contributed to what happened. And so it's hard to hear those things because it is a reality, and maybe we could have saved it, but it does take two people. So,
Right. Yeah, like even if you save it, if the other person isn't ready or willing, it doesn't mean it will. And even if you want to save it, that doesn't mean that the energy's there. Sometimes it's too exhausting to do it. Is it something you think about often?
what
The marriage and how things could have been different if it could have been saved.
what my biggest concern about the divorce is the impact on my children. So I actually created a pen name, and I'm writing more. It'll be another series of books, and just to explore the divorce and what went wrong, and how to the children and lessons learned, because I hope that my children make better choices than I did. So that's what I think about a lot.
I think that'd be a really interesting exploration that would be useful to a lot of people. I hope whenever we write, we want the people close to us to read it too. Like, this has been my journey. Please understand me.
I hope, because I've had two children that have alienated, cut me out of their lives. So it's very painful. But on the Amish perspective, it's interesting because the Amish, so they're not allowed to divorce under any circumstances. I know many Amish that have left the communities, and the opposite happens. So my children cut me out of their life, right, from the divorce. But in Amish land, I've seen many young people leave, and then their parents cut them out of their lives, like 100%. We don't know you. You can't talk to us. It's as if you were never born.
What
So,
happened to that policy of forgiveness?
so, so they believed in the commandment, honor your father and your mother, and that they are committing the biggest dishonor if they leave the way that they were taught. So
Hmm,
that's where they draw the line on
yeah,
forgiveness, is right there.
I guess I have judgmental words come up when I hear that, just like harsh. I've definitely like escaped, and I think it's natural for children to want to explore and like what is that world outside and wanting like I would want my kids if I had kids to or anyone just to like yeah like you think there's something else out there go ahead and explore and like when you're ready if you want to come back I'll be here.
I agree.
The prodigal son.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yep. I have to remind them of that story next time.
I heard this story, it might interest you.
Well, they read the Bible, so I'm not sure where that comes from, the shunning.
Yeah. We're running low on our time. I wanted to invite you to share any sort of message or a connection to our audience or anything that you wanted to put out there.
Well, I collect Amish proverbs, and they're all over my book. Every chapter ends with an Amish proverb. And there's one that I think applies that is forgive and forget instead of resent and remember.
Nice. Well, I want to thank you and send some appreciation for you being on the show. I was excited to have you on. I don't know many people who've had your experience, and it was really enjoyable uh, to hear your stories and experiences. So thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it. This is wonderful. And the meditation, I still feel really good. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's awesome. And so if people want to, check out your books or learn more about you, how can they connect with you?
I'm on Facebook at Haley Straw 6, and I'm on TikTok, which I never wanted to be on, but I know anyway. It's Driving the Amish. That's on TikTok. And then my books are on Amazon, Tales of an Amish Taxi Driver.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. It's been great.